Hey ho, it's Marco Cattaneo, Subject Coordinator for ITI 597. The subject that is all about service management according to ITIL version 3. Hey, in this topic we're going to talk about an event. As part of event management we're going to cover events. Events. An event is a change of state that has significance for the management of a configuration item, a CI or an IT service. Can you imagine you're like monitoring like railway crossings and the signs? And one of the signs just stopped working and you don't know about it, then of course like people may get killed and trains may like crash into each other. So we need to know, and the moment what like one of those signs actually stops working, we should be alerted. We need to know about that event, and that is what event management and detecting events is all about. So we can actually make sense of our environment and start to control our environment. The term event is also used to mean like an alert or a notification. Feel free to use them interchangeably. By an IT service, a configuration item, a CI or a monitoring tool. So events are like just things happening, occurring in our environment that we need to know of. Yeah, events. Events typically require like IT staff to take some actions and often lead to incidents being recorded in the incident registration system. Not always, but it could be. And visualize or like imagine like you've got a power outage like on I don't know on Saturday morning. Well, hopefully somehow that event is picked up by something like an automatic monitoring system, so you can actually fix it during the weekend rather than actually like detecting it on Monday morning when it's already too late because you've got your users walking in, or you've got like I don't know, a server just like crashes. And the sooner you can actually pick up that event, the sooner you can pick up that occurrence, the sooner you can start to deal with the issue. Or you may just have a user logging onto a system, and for like auditing purpose you need to actually like create a record of that event, so you can actually prove afterwards, hey, from this time until this time the user actually has been using the system. So events actually they help you to really make sense of your environment and again to control your environment. Now ITIL talks about like three different like event types in the volume like service operation. There are like events that are actually like seen as an exception. So actually typically that means something has gone wrong, okay? Like a server just crashed, or an application doesn't start, or a transaction isn't properly processed, or you've got like a security breach. And there are like exceptions that you probably need to know of, and often they will move into like incident management space because they need to be dealt with. Now, there are also the so-called warnings, and warnings like they're events that signify unusual but not like exceptional operation. It means, for example, like you're running low in disk space, but again the disk is still running and people are still like storing files there. Or like performance is slower than normal, but it's still within boundaries. But you're reaching certain thresholds that should allow you to create some warnings before things start to fall over. And then we've got the so-called information events or informational events. And they're actually the events that signify regular operation. And I actually think that's probably the biggest, well, that's probably like the highest amount of events that you will be measuring in your environment. Just people logging onto systems, people sending emails, services starting, services stopping, applications like performing certain like transactions, you name it. It's just stuff you need to know of, often for reporting purposes, for like auditing purposes, or maybe you need to charge for a number of like events that occur. Okay, so typically three type of events we're dealing with: exception events, warning events, and information events. So you've got a bit of an example of like those three types, and this is like just a screenshot from like the event logs from Windows, which works really well. And you see actually a couple of like information events here. You actually see like an error, like an exception event, and also a couple of warnings there. So it's quite clear how those three categories even work, like for example in a Windows environment. It seems to work really well, and immediately like also using the colors like red for an error, it makes clear, hey, here I need to take some action. In this model, I'm showing you like the proactive nature of events. The nice thing about is like if you've got processes like availability management and capacity management, and they are setting like which events should be monitored, and they're also like setting the thresholds. They're really designing for the event management process. Event management is really operational. They're just monitoring and reporting and keeping track of all the events. Of course, like if an event occurs where, for example, something is broken, a server just crashed, of course, then typically like that will move into like incident management slash problem management space, and they can start like take some action to restore the service. Now the nice thing is like that all those events, of course, also create a lot of data of like what works and what doesn't work. That goes back into like CSI, a continual service improvement, and again all that data can be used to actually improve services and actually improve the environment. So feeds back also into service strategy. This is a really nice cool model of how some of those ITIL processes actually work together. Chew, Muskie, practice what you preach. Hey, it's of course all about understanding the concept of using events. Create a wish list. Why not create a wish list of events that you need to capture for the following configuration items: a desktop PC, your email application, a network link, a mobile phone, a file server, a laser printer, a database engine. Think about some of the events that you would like to measure for those devices, for those components. Have fun. Yeah, what's up, Doc? Another sample question. Hey, which one of the following statements is correct, considering the concept of dealing with events? Okay, answer A. All events should be dealt with as incidents. Answer B. An authorized user logging onto a system without any issues creates an exception event. Answer C. Incident and problem management set the thresholds at which events should be logged. And answer D. Event correlation and using a correlation engine is required to prevent duplication of events. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about the answer and then we'll move on. Okay, well the answer is answer D. Okay, you almost have to like eliminate answers A, B and C to get to D. Because if you pick up the same event twice, you typically don't want to create like two incidents. So you need something like a correlation engine, like, hey, did I already create an incident for this event? If yes, I don't have to create like another one. Because otherwise, like a server that's down for like a day, and you're pulling, you're monitoring the server like every second, before you know it, you end up with like 86,400 incidents in your incident management database for the same server outage. So you need to build in like a bit of intelligence, like in how you deal with all those events. So you need to like really correlate them. In the next topic, we're going to like discuss something that sits very closely or is very tightly aligned or closely aligned with like events, and that's the concept of an alert. Hey, until then, live long and prosper, nano nano, and as always, I'll be back.